I had a philosophy on the modifications that I wanted to do on the Gigabot, and in particular I wanted everything to be accessible from the front of the machine. I don't want to have to get up and go walk behind the machine to do anything that involves building a part, because once I start moving around the machine, I'll bump the machine, or I'll lean on it, or I'll do something that causes it to mess up. Maybe I'll grab a belt at the wrong time. And so I wanted everything to be accessible so that I'd have the computer in front of me and the machine right here. The actual changes that I've made to my machine that support the idea of having everything accessible to the front include, first of all, moving the power supply and the Vicky unit to the front of the machine. I found that once the machine was shoved into a corner with the filament back there and the Vicky back there, I'd have to move the desk, move the computer, wheel the machine out, get around to the back of it, start the job. It doesn't seem like a good workflow to me, so I changed it. So I had the machine probably put together about a month, maybe 2, before I took it all down again and rewired the whole thing. The second change that I made was being able to adjust the table without using the tools to be able to do it. So if I want to change how far the build height is away from the nozzle, then I can go back there and use thumb screws on the height adjustment. And so the next time the printer starts, I can dial that in precisely. The other change that I made was to be able to precisely control moving the extruder nozzle up and down without changing the build table height. And so if I'm in the middle of a print, or the print just starts and it's not sticking to the build table, rather than canceling out the job, I can just move the extruder up and down a few tenths of a millimeter at a time, and then get the print to continue to run. So I don't have to stop the job, do all the adjustments or anything. I can adjust it on the fly while the printer's printing. And then finally, the last modifications involve moving the filament access point up above the Gigabot so that I can have control on seeing the filaments. First, I want to be able to see the filaments. I want to see how much is available on the spool just by walking by it. I want that visible from the front. And so I moved the filament out detector from the back of the unit to on top of the extruder, so that one, it's very short distance between the filament out and the extruder body itself, so I'm not wasting a lot of filament there. But two, it just makes everything easily accessible and changeable. If I want to swap out a filament, I can do that from the front of the machine while I'm sitting down. Makes everything just a lot easier to me. I love the idea of the open community to help you move to that next level. The idea of being able to not only find the parts, similar parts to what you guys were using, but I might find an upgrade to the part, right? Or I might find a part that maybe you guys don't offer, but another company does, that bolts on to the Gigabot and then allows me to make the modifications that I want. And the open source, I know, doesn't start just with the frame or the mechanics, but also the electronics and the firmware. Having those open and easily accessible allows me to do what I want to do rather than depending on someone else to do it for me. And so yeah, that spurred on a lot of creativity, especially with the extruder body, to be able to say, okay, I know I like the E3D hot end, but I like the Prometheus better, so I'm going to build an extruder around the Prometheus hot end instead. Those kinds of things, having it open and easily available to modify at my will. Certainly I'm not done modifying it, and I have some other ideas in mind for what I want to do. But for me, for right now, it works, and it works great, and I want to, as a business owner, make sure that when I turn that machine on, it's going to work every time I turn it on to the best of my ability. That open community is really that giant that allows us ants to climb up and be on top of, just to peer over the horizon to see what's next. I love that aspect of it, and I think Re3D embodies that idea, that open architecture. How can they get people together to view that horizon and see just a little bit more, just a little bit further?